Alright, I'm Lee Hawthorne and welcome back to the channel once again. We're on a roll. We've got loads of interviews done. Not because I did them all in one day, I promise. I did do the Spine Tax one at a different time. But yeah, I did 4 interviews in one day, really enjoyed it. But I've got to do the intros. So I am wearing different clothes, I am in a different room. But that doesn't matter. We're going to be talking to Leddie MC today, an artist who has been one of the most, if not potentially the most, influential in my career, somebody who completely changed my perspective, my trajectory of where my career was going to go before I kind of heard Leddie's and Smoggy's music at the time. Um, I was very much into American rap and a bit of grime and had never considered there being a Northeast scene. And now I work for companies and my sole job is working within Northeast music. So thanks, Leddie. Um, but yeah, we're going to be talking about her new single "Way Back When" featuring Eyeconic and Chris Davison. Talking about some of the things that she's done recently with kind of creating supergroups for each single that she puts out. The fact that she's kind of come close to quitting quite a few times, and loads more as well. So let's get into it. So you just released a new single, "Way Back When." Tell me just a bit about it. What's it about? What's it about?
It's kind of like about the innocence before you start growing up, and like how your kind of resilience makes you who you are, and even though people judge certain things that you've been through, it's built you as you are. And then obviously with the chorus, the "take a walk in my shoes" and things kind of goes back to this is why I might act how I do now and why I am how I am basically.
Mm. Was there anything that kind of inspired it? Obviously, life inspired it, but was there like a moment where you thought, okay, I need to write a song about this kind of thing?
Well, I'd made like a rough beat. The beat that is on that isn't the beat we started with. So I'd sent a beat over to Eyeconic. He started like I said, just write whatever like comes to your mind, and I'll go off whatever you've done because it's easier.
Mm.
And he started the like way back and before kind of concept, and I said, "Oh, that's fine. I'll start going off that then." And I was just like putting bits together. And then I'd recorded my rough verse, and I was waiting for him to finish his. And I said, like, I'm going to mess around with a beat. And then we kind of just like scrapped the old one, and I'd started like relayering and using bits from the first beat we used and made something completely different.
Yeah. Am I right in thinking it took a while for this song to be made because you were waiting on Iconic's verse for a little while?
Yeah, pretty much. And do you know what? I hate bothering people as well because I hate it when people do it to me. But it was like the start of lockdown. We're like, oh, we've got this idea, and he'd sent me like 12 bars or something. So I'd gone off that and I'd finished mine. And then I was like, any chance on those other bars? Because I think we were meant to do 16. And then I was like, oh, I think it'd be better going for 24 with it being like the two of us. And then he's like, yeah, I've just got like 8 bars to write. And then maybe like a week later, he was like, I'm really sorry, I've been busy. I've got 4 more bars to write. And it did take a while, but it was worth it in the end. So
Yeah, it was kind of obviously, it's no secret, both of you are two of my favourite artists in the world of all time. Uh, so like I had kind of a lot of expectations going into it. And then when I heard it, I was like, this is like just about everything that I wanted it to be.
oh,
And
I'm glad with that then. Yeah,
like
I'm glad with
I,
that.
I probably not thinking about it didn't really even realize it was a 24, but yeah, I think I would have hated it had it just been 16 and then like a chorus hide in between. I think it was really nice that it kind of like he's worked on the same concept essentially, and that
Yeah,
it was like a bit longer because I love the Joe Budden 72 bar bases and that.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think like if I hadn't have stopped at the 24, we'd have both just kept going. But I felt like 16 was a bit of a waste because like we've always talked about doing a tune for years, and I thought the 16 you can fit a little bit in, and maybe if I was doing two verses and a feature verse, I would have done like 216 and had him do a 24. But I just felt like we should just both do the 24 and fit everything in, and then round it off at the end.
yeah, since you spoke about doing a tune for years, like why was now the time that it came together?
I think it was just the beat that I was making. And I felt like he would have sounded good on it. Even the original beat that probably no one will ever hear now. But like, and then obviously as it had progressed, it just worked out.
Yeah. Before the song came out, you kind of wrote on Facebook a kind of a little story about how you kind of met and how you gave him kind of advice or whatever back in the day. Can you tell me just like again, like how did you meet and what was the kind of the story behind?
So me and Smoggy released the Calm Before the Storm mixtape, and we'd kind of had like ads on Facebook and stuff like that, because obviously back then you could have like a band name as a Facebook page and stuff like that. So we were on as Leddie and Smoggy, and that's how we did like our promo and stuff like that. And Sam hung around with a lad called Mo, and they were both like learning to rap and things like that. And it turned out that like my auntie worked in their school and got talking to them. But they knew of us already, so he was kind of surprised that like my auntie worked at his school and all that kind of thing. I think he was about 14 or something. And then they would send us messages just asking like what you would need to record, where you would get beats, and where you want to go for gigs and advice and that kind of thing. And then obviously I think his mate Mo might have moved to like Canada or something, and he still makes music. And then obviously Sam's Eyeconic, so turned out all right.
Yeah.
My advice mustn't be too shabby. Do you know what I mean? All right, isn't it?
Okay. Has its moment. How important is that for you? Because I guess like as much as you're an artist in your own right, it must feel like really good to have people come to you for advice and then become artists like Eyeconic.
Yeah, it's good, because I just kind of think we were winging it, so we were just kind of giving advice on what we were doing, and then obviously it must work in some sense. And like if they keep just like when they're asking our gigs, I'm like, just pester people. That's literally what we did, and then eventually they just kind of give you a chance, and so do other people. Works out.
Yeah. Are there any other artists that you've kind of maybe helped along the way?
I don't know. I get quite a lot of people that have messaged me, and I've never seen them do anything. But obviously, like we used to have like our little crew, like Gister and you know, like Proj and people like that. So I would like to think that we've all kind of stuck together and kind of helped as many people as we can.
Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? What about Chris Davison then? He's obviously on the song as well. How did that come about? How did you get him on it?
I think I put a status on Facebook asking for a singer, and loads of people commented on it, and people were like, oh, you would want Chris Davison. And somebody had sent me a link, and he does like he has a similar vibe to what that song was. So I'd spoken to him or whatever, and I'd sent him the beat and the lyrics and stuff like that, because I'd wrote the chorus, but I'm always a bit like iffy with it, and I'm like, you know, if you want to change a bit, you can change it. And then I think he sent me back like 20 vocal tracks, and they were like high pitched one, low, and I was just like, it was proper like a dream for that, because normally artists will send me back like 2 stems, maybe like 2 abs, and you can't really do much with it. But that's where I could like build the chorus and add to it. So I just said to him like, do what you want, do like harmonies or whatever. He just proper like went out on it, so can't complain.
It's really interesting, your kind of like artistic journey, coming from, obviously you mentioned kind of Northern Lights in the song, and then obviously Leddie and Smoggy, where I think a lot of people probably maybe first heard of you, I think it's probably fair to say. And then Smoggy doing stopping and you doing your solo stuff. And I always remember you being really scared to do your first solo gig.
Oh, I was, and I was like telling Smoggy, I was like, I'm not doing it, I'm pulling out. And he was like, why? And I'm like, I don't want to, like, even though you're performing, I don't like people looking at me, right? Like, it's weird. And then, and he actually came and watched, and obviously he was like with my husband, Baz turned up, a few other people and stuff. And I did it, and I was like, oh my God, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, it was just like seamless pretty much. And he was like, so you've done your first one, now you can obviously go on to do a lot more. And I think that summer I did like 2 a week or something, maybe 3, like all over. So
am I right in thinking that the first one was at Independent?
No, the first one was at Mima and Borough. So it was like a little poetry night, I think. So they do like spoken word, and they have like artists on and stuff like that. And they'd asked me to do it as like was it like a piece of cake release party? I was like, oh yeah. And then the closer it got, I thought, shit, I'm gonna have to pull out. I'm not like ready to do it on my own or whatever. And then it was pretty like, it went down well, and like sold like CDs and stuff, so that's always a bonus. And then that kind of like spurred me on. But I was always the one that I kind of felt like I held Smoggy back, and he's always said he felt like it was the other way, and he was like a female rapper from not like Borough and stuff like that, and the stuff that I'm speaking on, he was like, people don't need a male in that kind of dynamic because it's unheard of to have a woman from like Borough rapping and speaking on certain things. So he kind of felt like he was holding me back, whereas I thought he was the better rapper and the better performer, and on his own he would have done a lot better, but he just didn't believe me, and then he just stopped. So
I think
just
that's
worked
really
out
interesting.
that way.
That's mad that you both think that, because to me, I think you complement each other really well, and I think it really worked. And obviously, you've done amazingly and deservedly so on your own. But I think for me, Leddie and Smoggy was great. Smoggy's
Yeah, but I
lovely.
always thought it was like brotherly and sisterly, kind of like he would have one idea and then I'd like bounce off that idea and it'd work that way. And like at the time, it was great. And then obviously, the more I was doing it, and people, if we put a tune out, they might be like, Smoggy's verse on this is amazing. And I'd just be like, mint, I've just made the fucking beat. Just wrote my verse and all this. And then some people would completely ignore me and they'd be like, the beat's great and stuff. And I'm just like, do people purposefully like go out of the way? And that's why I felt like I was holding him back. So we'd spoke about it loads of times, but it's what it is.
So did you say that you produced the beats for, did you do all of them on, Sorry We're Late?
I did, yeah.
I never knew that. Because that's completely changed my questions then. But, because I kind of thought,
were like sampled, so they're not like as I'm doing them now.
yeah.
But and then we had like people play bass and guitar and things like that on them as well.
Oh, that's really nice. Because like to me, like I kind of thought, so you went from that doing your solo stuff and worked with Baz for a bit, and then on now kind of, to me, creating like super groups on every song that you make.
Getting there.
Yeah, and it does feel like now, I guess maybe the difference is then you were maybe as a beat maker, and now it feels like you're a producer.
Yeah, I feel like before I was just kind of hearing maybe like 4 bars, something being like, mint, I'll nick that, put some drums on it or whatever, and I was doing it that way. Whereas now I'm like maybe getting an electric guitar and I'm picking like a quarter of a bar and I'm repeating that, and then I'm reversing stuff, and I'm actually like building things that I'm happy with rather than like well-known samples and messing around with them.
Yeah, I remember watching the interview that you did with Dave Saunders for the Tees Music Alliance podcast that they do. And you mentioned something about how you don't necessarily tell the artists that you work with what you want. You kind of just let them jam and then you just work with it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got like guitarists and bassists and pianists and stuff that I work with, and I'd prefer like if they jam on it, I'll sample a bit that I like, or like use bits for a chorus and things, and I'll just like, I prefer to leave it up to them. I don't want to like, I think as a performer and like composer and stuff like that, that it should be kind of down to them. I don't want to stop them from doing whatever they think would sound good, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really nice. Is there anybody that you've worked with that you've like really like stood out as like an amazing guitarist or whatever?
Well, I've got obviously a little handful that I work with on quite a lot of stuff, and Jamie Donnelly, he like mix and masters as well. He's really good at anything. So it'll be like, I did send him way back when as well, and I was like, can you put a guitar solo on this? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, why? And he was like, it doesn't need one. I was just like, oh, that's fine. He was like, I can do it if you want, but from like the perspective of a listener and that, he was like, it doesn't need one. The song is finished as it is. So I trust his like opinion on things as well.
I think that is the mark of somebody who is like good at what they do, when they can like say no because it doesn't need it. Like, I think that's like really good. And obviously, Be Quiet Shout Loud, they're not doing stuff at the minute. They're like running a hiatus, but great band anyway. And I've seen just literally before we started this that you're I think, is it Weekend Sun, the singer from Weekend Sun that you're talking to? Tell me about that. Like, what's that for? What's the process of talking to her about?
So obviously she was kind of tagged into the status, and then loads of other people commented on it as well. You know, like when you hear something, you think, I'm really sorry, but I just want her. Like, as soon as I heard her and I'd been linked to videos and things, obviously I'm always like looking to work with people. So I said, oh, like I'll keep in touch with everyone else for certain things. And I heard a voice and I was like, I literally don't want anyone else. So I'd sent her a message. I'd added her on Facebook. And then she'd accepted my friend request but not read my message, so I like deleted it, copy and pasted it, and I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, you know, like I don't think my message got through. And then as we were talking, she'd like gone to my senior school as well, so we were kind of talking about that, and we were talking about the ideas or whatever, and I sent her the beat, and it's kind of like, it touches on like racism and fascism and white privilege and like just society in general and things like that. And I'd said to her, like, I'd copy and pasted my lyrics. I was like, if there's anything like you're unhappy with, because I know it's like, it can be sensitive for some people, like talking about things like that. I said, like, I won't be offended if you don't want to sing on it or anything like that. I'd wrote the chorus, and then she's just said yeah. So she said she's up for it. So even through COVID, we're gonna get something done. So
Yeah.
good, and hopefully I'll rope Jamie Donnelly into recording her, and we'll, he'll put some guitar on it and stuff like that. But he's already played the bass on the tune that I want to on, so it's good.
Oh, wicked. I also seen, I think it was about a month ago, maybe it's less than that now. You tweeted the Pale White after hearing one of their songs, and were asking their vocalist if they would jump on something. Has anything come from that?
Not yet, but maybe if I keep atting them and harassing them and that. So it was probably for that tune that I've just got Carleen on, so he's missed out. Do you know what I mean? It's his own fault.
It really impressed me, like, because it reminded me of like 2010 Twitter, when like it was like a free for all and you could just message anybody, and they would like, that's how my career started with like blogging and stuff. It was like I would tweet people and they would share it, and it was like great. But I don't think that like exists so much anymore. So it was great to see, especially because like
for them to air it, and I'm like, mint.
Well, now they replied a couple of times, so there's something there. So hopefully something happens, because I think that's not something I would ever expect for like me and the Pale White to be a thing. But I'm here for it. I
just heard his voice and I was like, oh my god, that sounds like really good, and like would like to do something. So we'll see what comes of it. But like I think next I'll be like atting Joe Budden for a verse and stuff like that. We should do a tune, Joe. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but also like, is he coming out of retirement?
I don't know.
Leddie? I think he said that he's going to come out of retirement for a Jay-Z verse. So maybe get Jay-Z first.
Maybe. Yeah.
How we do it. How did it all start? Like, what made you start kind of contacting musicians and stuff?
So obviously, Alex Bailey, I did the album with him, and then he ran for like Labour MP or something in Scarborough, and he was like, I can't do music no more, and I thought, fuck, what am I to do? And then he said he wouldn't have enough time, so I said, all right, if I make like a bass beat and write bars, and then we could build around it. He's like, yeah. But then I just started like, what I'd done like a collab with Eve, and I pretty much produced it from scratch, and it was fucking terrible, right? So I'd done it, I was so proud of it. And Baz played like guitar, drums, and then I'd put strings in it and everything, and it was horrible. And then I kind of thought maybe I can't play things in MIDI and play strings, so I would have to use like samples and local musicians and things like that. So I asked for a guitarist in a Teesside musicians group, and a guy was like, yeah, I'll play guitar and I'm happy enough to do that. So I sent him the tune and I was like, it just needs like one guitar line or something, I'll go from there, like I'll find someone else to do something else. And he sent me back like 10, and he's like, oh, I've like panned these are bits for panning, they've got distorted guitars, and it ended up being They Don't Make Them Like You with Eve, that's on my EP, which obviously I was really happy with. So then I thought maybe I could just keep doing this and see like how far I can go, and it just kind of built from there, and I don't really bother Baz for anything anymore. So
it's quite sad, but also really nice to hear that there is like a genuine kind of community spirit for the music scene in Teesside, especially, because like everybody just seems to have been up for it, essentially. Like, yeah,
pretty much. I mean, it's like years ago you would never catch people wanting to like jump on hip hop tune or anything like that, like say like 10, 12 years ago. And I think just over time now, it's a lot more like they like to have people involved. I'd talked to Simon Shaw about it as well, who does like the Tees, Spotify's and things like that. And I said like, it's just nice to like be included, because years ago they'd kind of be like, bands didn't want to be associated with rappers, and like rappers didn't really want to be associated with bands, but we would be on the same lineup, so they'd have like a band headlining and me and Smoggy like supporting them or whatever, but they never like, we would never like talk or anything like that unless you really knew people personally. But people have been like up for it, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think there has been like, I don't know what happened, but something has changed within like the hip hop scene, and it has like crossed over and become like mainstream locally kind of thing. And like I even remember like it wasn't that, it must have only been like 4 or 5 years ago where like there were venues that banned hip hop, and it was like, what is happening? Like, and now like to see like you working with like every musician in Teesside, and seeing like Shaq being on all of these like Knock magazine things and all that, and like it's really like amazing to see, isn't it?
I think it's just like it's gone on. Like me, Shaq pretty much are like the longest. I'd say people that have done it for a while, been on the scene the longest, that's still going. Apart from like Gisto when he like dips his toe in now and again. But like I think they've got to the point where they've thought, oh shit, like we can't really ignore them. So we're gonna have to do something so we are like inclusive and represent all genres like in Teesside or whatever. And it's obviously, I think they used to think we were like bad people or something. Now they've realised we're quite friendly and like, do you know what I mean? The like was a little bit more now. So
I mean, some of these are all right. Do you think anything's like maybe it's changed because of how you approach things as well? Because like when you were saying earlier on about when you first started doing gigs and you were like quite scared and stuff, and then it's interesting to me, like we spoke at like festivals and stuff. I can't remember which one it was in Dartmoor, whether it was Music Box or Last Train Home, but I remember you doing the Know Your Daughter stage where there was a hip hop stage, and then you were like, no, I want to do this stage, and essentially because it was going to pay you as well better.
Yeah.
Like, how important do you think that is for you to kind of take a professional approach and like put value in your music so that you don't do gigs unless you're paid the amount that you want paid?
I think it's just like, if you do put a price on it and you're not going to budge and you know that you're worth it and you're going to put the time and the effort in, then they will pay and they won't be like, fucking robbed us there. Do you know what I mean? They're going to, like, every time I've been paid for something, I've been like praised for it. Like I've done a lot of gigs, like I've done the Baha Mahdi gig as well, and people that don't rap and are just complete fans came up to me and they were like, oh, the way that you handle yourself professionally, like I don't drink at a gig till after I've performed. Like if I'm getting paid for it, it's a job and I'm there and I want to obviously do it to the best that I can and things like that. And a lot of people in the scene don't, and they'll turn up to gigs and they'll be mortal and they can't perform and they forget the bars. And I think like if a promoter is paying you to do that, then essentially they're your employer. So it's kind of like you want to give a good impression, because then when someone asks for a rapper or a hip hop act or something like that, you're going to be the first person that they recommend and you're always going to get more work for it. Yeah.
As far as charging for gigs, I think there's like some sort of like stigma behind doing that, in that people think like that promoters will not, because there's always going to be somebody who will do it for free.
Yeah.
Have you found it being the opposite, where like for me, from what I've seen of you, you've probably been booked for more gigs, especially kind of like mainstream local gig kind of things, because since you started charging? Do you think it's been actually the opposite?
I think just because they see that you put worth on yourself and you know that, you know, like you kind of not performing for free and not showing up to every open mic, so people are intrigued and do kind of want to come and see what you're doing and what kind of the fuss is about when other people are saying that they've seen you and they like how you have banter in between songs and how you're interacting and things like that. So it does work out better than playing at every kind of gig that you're offered just for the sake of it.
Yeah. There's been a bit of like a change almost in your music, not a change, but a kind of a reaffirmation for your music, I think. From a couple of years ago, I remember you kind of started like branching out and like experimenting, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. But then I remember, I don't know if it was it one of my reviews that made you kind of realise that like doing the kind of the emotional, like kind of lyrical kind of stuff was that you wanted to do?
Possibly. I mean, like when me and Baz were doing tunes, I was writing the bars over drum beats and he was building around it. And like, and it was kind of, even though I still touched on like the emotional side and things like that, but then it's kind of, when I was listening back, I thought, I don't feel like it was me. Like the sound overall, like it's not the kind of music that I listen to, even though I did like enjoy performing the songs and things like that. But now it's kind of, I like the beat to kind of evoke emotion as well, and I want people to feel things through that as well as like the bars that I've written. So
yeah. And I think people, I mean, I can speak for myself, that like connect to it. Like I'll Be Good is one of my favourite songs. And I know it's R.I.P. But
I actually want to do that with a live band and like rewrite some of the bars and stuff like that I thought needed a little change. And I was asking people during lockdown, but obviously bands can't get together and things like that. But I would love to like re-release it, but as a new single, kind of like how I did answer me. So
Yeah.
I did want a band and a singer to sing it and things like that. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Good.
But I really did want to do it. So
that's good to hear. And then even like on the EP Bonus Song you just released, what was the last song called?
God, what was the last song? Where we...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like even that is kind of in a similar vein in that like it really just like hits a spot. And I guess it is kind of reflective of your kind of the personal life and kind of some of the stuff that you've gone through recently that's like hard enough for anybody in like the pandemic and all that sort of thing, but you've had like, you know, your mum dying and stuff like that. How important has it been for you to have that kind of creative outlet?
It's just like, it's so weird because obviously like years ago I didn't really care for it and I would write bars to impress my mates and daft stuff like that, like go to open mics and you'd spit like this new 16 that you'd done and everyone thought it was amazing and all this stuff. And then obviously when I wrote a Piece of Cake when my nana was terminally ill, and that got me through that kind of thing, something to focus on. And then I'll Be Good was released when my other nana was terminally ill and she'd passed away, and then I was kind of like, and then when it came to obviously my mum, I'd had like surgery, I couldn't do anything, like I literally couldn't get out of bed and stuff like that. And then lockdown happened and I just thought like, this is fucking great. And I just, like, everyone else was like, well, what am I going to do for like, it was meant to be 3 weeks. What am I meant to do for 3 weeks? And I thought, I'm just going to like make music. And I felt like the world had stopped just for me. Because obviously like grieving and stuff like that is fucking hard. And especially when you're going back to work and it's been Christmas and everyone's like, oh, I had a great Christmas, and you're thinking, well, I fucking didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like, mine was shit. And then it was my birthday in the January, and I felt like I hadn't slowed down. So obviously, when it got to lockdown, I just thought, I'm just going to do music and do what I need to do. So like, the first 3 weeks, Ian was off work as well. So I was still working out, making music and that, and he was playing FIFA and Football Manager and daft shit like that. And then he went back to work, so I was like getting up in the morning and I was like on my own unless I'd pretty much gone to see my niece or whatever. So I'd spent every day just working on a new tune and writing and stuff like that. And then I worked out that it's just how I process information. So like Save Your Soul and stuff like that about COVID and things like that was like how I'd process the information that I'd seen in news and stuff like that. So like it's just been part of the kind of healing process. There's a lot of stuff that obviously I haven't wrote about yet because I don't know how to like put it into words, and it's like a struggle. So I'm writing maybe like bars, but they're not in any kind of structure or anything, and it's just to get it out so that I can process that bit, and then I'll like try it again, and eventually I might get it down to like a song or something like that. So it was just got me through really, and then it's made music that people seem to enjoy. So it's worked out well.
And then it's like, because obviously all of that is amazing to hear that like music like helps you so much, but it's also a complete ball ache sometimes, isn't it?
It is. Oh my God. You know what? It's like a toxic relationship, because as much as I love it, I fucking hate it as well. And you know where you've got that friend that is just a dick and you just think, mate, I'm going to go home tonight and you're never going to hear from me ever again. You're just a dick. And then maybe a few days later you think, I should probably send them a text. And then the next time you know, you're at the pub with them again, and it's like that. And I just like, I'll turn on to Ian and I'm like, mate, I've quit. I've had enough. And he's like, right, okay. And I'm like, no, seriously, I'm done. I'm fucking done with it. And he's like, right, okay. He'll come in the next day and I'm like, oh, I started this tune today, I've made a beat. And he's like, I thought you quit. And I'm like, I did, but like, this is the one now. And he just like, it's like other, you know, like happens every week. I used to finish gigs and in the car home, I'd be like, I feel like I'd done shit there. That was my last gig. And he'd be like, right, okay. And then he'd know that I'd get another one booked for the week after. It's just like a repetitive cycle, but it's just one of them things.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes you message me. I feel sorry for them because I get them more than I would like, but Ian must get them all the time. Bless him. But like, I think the last one, we don't like need to go into details and whatnot, but the last one, like, it felt real, and I was like really quite sad about it.
Do you know what? Honestly, it did, and I was like, that's it now. I've just got to like, because what I don't think people understand is when, like, obviously I get it more now, but I never used to. Where like opinions or like things that you write online, people might be just ranting about it and they think, for whatever reason, they think the world needs to know about this right now, how fucking angry and offended I am about this, or why I don't like this. And people do it. And I've probably done it in the last few weeks, and I've deleted the tweet, and I thought, people don't need to know that. But some people like genuinely commit to things, and they don't realise that they just want other people to chime in to kind of give their opinion and things like validation. There's nothing else going on in the world, so they don't have anything else to focus on. So like, it can be fucking horrible, like at the same time. And like, when you're already going through things and you're like the focus of somebody that wants to actually like mentally destroy you and things like that, it does get to you. So when I was kind of like, I'm done, I don't need this. All I wanted to do was make music and release music and live my life. But when people are like targeting or sending messages or harassing you or things like that, it turns to a different level, and it's not like what I wanted to be included in within music at all. It's not what I've intended, do you know what I mean? I just thought I'd just post the odd song, fuck off for a few weeks, come back, I'll post another one, go again, and like, people just don't let you do it.
Yeah. Are you like kind of happy with that now then? Are you kind of content with just releasing music, getting kind of the plays, which I think you get quite a lot of kind of plays from like introducing both the shows that I work on, not from me, but you do get plays. I see like stuff for like T's Click and stuff like that kind of play, other stations around the northeast, and even just kind of like the underground hip hop stations kind of around the UK, and even some in America I think play as well. Yeah. Are you quite content with that, or is it still kind of part of you that want to kind of go for it and kind of get on like One Extra and play Glastonbury and stuff like that? Does that appeal to you? I guess you wouldn't say no, but...
I wouldn't say no, but at the same time, it's not what I'm aiming for. Like, during lockdown, I just kind of thought, I'm like over 30 now. I don't really particularly care about doing videos anymore. I don't care about the image side. Not many people watch music videos more than once or twice, so it's kind of a waste to fork out 300 to 400 quid for like 1,000 views. Doesn't necessarily make sense, especially when people stream a song over and over again, or download it or buy it and will listen to it that way. So I kind of just thought, all the time that I've kind of, even like the covers and things, I thought, I don't feel like I should be going to this extent. But it worked out well, like with the posters and stuff. But I thought, when I was planning videos and the effort of all that and the image of it, I just thought, the main thing that matters is actually the music. So why don't I just focus on that? Because at the end of the day, like, nobody really cares what you look like when they're listening to you. Do you know what I mean? They want the music and things like that. So during lockdown, I kind of decided that if this is it, then that's sound. Obviously, I just want to make the best music I can and release it and hopefully reach more and more people. But at the same time, I'm not going to like go out of my way of things like videos and photo shoots and all this extra stuff that doesn't really mean anything in terms of the actual music side of it. So I just kind of settled and thought this could be it.
Fair. What have you got planned for next year then? Because I think something that you did amazing this year really was how you kind of, I think you had your year planned out in like February or something, didn't you, just about, where like the singles and the EP that you had, I think most of the stuff that you had sent to distributors like 6 months in advance and stuff like that.
When was 3 months before, I think, and then it finally come and I was like, yes, it's finally out. I'm sick of seeing like the little hyper follow thing because it's not out yet, and I'd rushed like Eyeconic and like sent me the verse in like July, and I was like, this will look great for a November release. And he just kind of probably thought, mate, you've just fucking messaged me every week, rushed it, got it mixed and mastered, and now I've got to wait 5 months for it to come out. And I was just like, this is great. And then whenever I logged on, I just seen it and I thought, it's like, it felt like it lasted forever coming out, like, so. But yeah, I mean, next year I was going to drop a single in January featuring Gister, but I'm not, because I feel like December's Christmas, January's my birthday, and it feels a bit stressful to be like drunk for a week and then try to get like the release and stuff ready. It's a bit stressful. I'm trying to go to Amsterdam for my birthday. I know it's not going to happen because of COVID, right? But I'm sticking that I will be in Amsterdam, so hopefully I will. But I've got like a single for February which features Rick Fury and Seek the Northerner, which is quite an interesting tune. And then a single pretty much every month planned, which is either pretty much written and the beat's done and I just need a chorus, or it just needs recording. So from February to November, hopefully. All being well. I was going to release another EP, but I thought I'll just do a single a month instead and see what happens.
Fair. Have you noticed anything like being so prepared and sending those songs out like 3 months in advance, whatever? Did you notice that, like, was it do you think it's a good thing, I guess? Like, was there anything particular that you've seen that was like, oh, that wouldn't usually happen, but because I'm so prepared and so in advance?
I think just like submitting it to like Spotify, you know, like where you can send it to playlists and stuff like that. I don't know if you actually get like on the release radar thing if you don't, or do you?
If you're following an artist, then it can. It doesn't always, but but the pre-save does automatically go on there, I think.
Does it? So it was just kind of like being more prepared. Just kind of felt like it was easier. So obviously I'm trying to do like little video clips and stuff with every release and that, so it's not just a photo and things like that. So I mean, the Way Back When one was done like a week before, which is a little bit late considering I had like 5 months. But it just feels like that it flows easier and that it's just like I'm not panicking thinking, oh shit, I need to like write this up and I need to do that and I want to sort this out. So it's gone better than expected, to be fair. It just feels like chilled, which sometimes is a bit strange because I feel like I've missed something because I'm too chilled at the minute, and then I panic and then I realise I've actually done everything. So
yeah, fair. Where can people find you online to kind of follow all these releases?
So obviously Facebook is just Leddie MC, Twitter and Instagram is Leddie_MC, and they're pretty much the only social media that I use at the minute. I'm getting old, I can't keep up with all this kind of stuff, like TikTok and all that shit is not for me, mate.
I would pay some good money for you to start doing renegade dances on that.
TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm bad for everything because even though I make music, I like log onto my like Leddie MC Instagram explore page and it's literally pugs and food, and I don't know how to change it, right? So I'm trying to discover new artists, and it's just like I'll like stuff and I'll tag eating recipes, and I'm like, this is what we'll have next week for tea, and it'll be like beef, like tacos or some shit like that, and it's just, I mean, I have a personal one as well, and that's like trainers, food, and pugs. And now, for whatever reason, it's like motivational quotes, and I think I don't need these now, right? So just give me the food and the pugs, but I can't get it off my music page. So I've got to that age where I'm a technophobe.